See Mike's little face in the corner there. He's just hanging out on the stream.
Yeah, I got rid of that. I realized that I was in the frame somehow. Now I got to trim it out again, man.
I thought it was kind of nice. I thought it was cute.
Thanks, man. Hello and welcome to the Benzo Rehab Dungeon, episode 71. It is the 17th of December, 2021. I am your host, as always, Michael Deebs. Joining me, as also always, Danko Suvin from the Instagram handle at DankTheLuz.
Except for last time.
You did actually join.
I did. Anyways. I forgot I called you guys. Yeah, it was important.
Still an as always thing, except for that one episode John and I did together.
That's true. 1.5. So there's pretty good.
Also, while I'm on the subject, also joining us is John, the producer from the Instagram handle Discopathic. John, how are you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm glad that we get to punish Dorian with our topic today.
I'm excited for it.
For leaving us last week.
Yeah.
What is the topic today?
Well, I'll get into that in a second.
Employee of the year.
Danko, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm all right, man. I've been putting a lot of thought into making a very serious purchase.
Oh.
Yeah. You see, first edition copies of The Outsider and Other Tales by Lovecraft is only a few $1,000s.
for the low price of a few $1,000s.
Yeah. No, actually, it's not quite that bad. It's like $1,500, which means that I'm still not going to fucking buy it. But I've been having fantasies about it all day because it'd be fun.
It's one of those things where when you have the actual means to do something like that, you're like, what if I did?
Yeah,
no, I won't. Yeah. I won't. But what if I did?
It's like I could just eat like I was before instead of foie gras on every meal.
What you're doing right now, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's the only way to keep my bowels moving. And my God, do they move? Anyway, I'm fine. Just making big purchases, being a rich guy.
Yeah, well,
capitalism rules.
You're fantasizing about making big purchases and being a rich guy.
Yeah, but I don't know. Is that
sorry if I just like ruined your shit and like made you feel bad?
I mean,
that wasn't my intent.
Next, you're going to tell me that I'm not responsible for the deaths of any children in diamond mines.
It wasn't your fault, Dorian. You had to move on past the accident.
How are you, Mike?
Cool. Glad you asked. I'm okay. I will go ahead and address the elephant on my face, which is I don't know what this is. It's some kind of acne horrible thing happening.
You actually, you know what they call acne on your face?
Go ahead.
It's just acne.
I wasn't sure if you had a joke or anything lined up.
No,
go ahead, because your thing is more important than my story.
It is. That was actually part of my mental illness coming through, if it wasn't already obvious. But I have this thing that occurs, and I'm not being ironic here, but it is funny and kind of silly. But I have this thing that happens where I'm so used to correcting people wrong on purpose because it's funny, like saying irregardless, stuff like that. Because when you have degrees in English, the only thing you're supposed to do is like abuse that and fuck up prescriptive grammar worse than it already was. But anyway, so I just can't stop making fake corrections. Yeah. And so when you said acne, I was like, it's called facne, actually. And so I had to say that in order to stop myself from giving the fake correction. So it became an even more meta joke. So people think that I'm a funny guy. I'm in fact just deeply deeply mentally ill in a kind of OCD way.
Yeah, so you gave yourself some kind of pathologic mental disorder through being a shitlord.
It's called hyperstition, bro.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was gonna jump into. So anyways, yeah, we have mask mandates back in California, and the other day I worked quite a laborious job, in which I was wearing a mask the entire time, and I think it did bad things. It's unfortunate, but whatever. Here we are.
Cool,
if you're tuning in live, you're probably wondering what's the subject of today's discussion.
What is the subject of today's discussion?
And the subject is erections, namely those that have been constructed by humans.
Oh, we're talking about buildings again.
Yeah, we're talking about buildings again.
I am actually excited for this.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some fun things. We're gonna briefly touch on some things that probably deserve, more time if we were something that focused on engineering.
Yeah, I mean, if we were a serious podcast, we'd spend the time getting into things. But we're just we're like
we aren't an engineering specific podcast or anything like that.
Do you have any that you would suggest?
There are some I would suggest.
Oh, that's what you were saying already.
Well, There's Your Problem is one that I would suggest. One of the topics we're going to talk about later is actually they did a deep dive on just this one topic. So, very good podcast.
Are there any architectural discussions that don't eventually go back to either the Hoover Dam or 9/11?
Yes, there's plenty actually.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I feel like it's a Kevin Bacon thing.
No,
Well,
we fucked up a lot of things trying to solve problems that we've created over and over again.
You also have the Tower of Babel. Sorry, that's the trifecta.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Tower of Babel.
America almost had it all.
So let's go ahead and go to the first link that we have. Jump right into this. So people may or may not have heard of what's called the Millennium Tower in San Francisco.
Oh fuck yeah!
It's become one of my favorite subjects to just kind of watch. Not necessarily explore a whole lot of the ins and outs necessarily, like I am with a lot of other buildings right now as I'm working on a project. But I love this one because we'll watch this video, and then we'll watch a video of this dude that kind of just like simps for engineers. He's an engineer himself, I guess, but he's also a simp for engineers, and he really just kind of like, hey, this project's no problem. Why is everybody freaking out? And then we'll look at like what's happened since he released that video, and it's just like chef's kiss good. So if we could go ahead and play this, so people get an overview of what's happening at the Millennium Tower. Or actually, this is like a lead into the Millennium Tower problem in general, which is that San Francisco has so much building weight on it right now in the downtown area that the downtown area is like sinking faster than people would normally expect it to.
Because it's a seaside space. It's a bay with fucking clay beneath it.
Right.
Yeah.
Not.
People turned a really big bay into a slightly smaller bay by making it a landfill.
Yeah.
And then
built
skyscrapers on it.
Yep.
So let's listen to this Puerto Rican like fish who somebody I think is exposing themselves to him on camera.
Are you H.P. Lovecraft?
Oh man, that came out of nowhere.
Hell yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Well, we've documented the troubles with San Francisco's Millennium Tower, sinking and leaning for years. But that's not the only building that's sinking in the Bay Area. Our investigative reporter, Jackson Vanderbecken, tells us the timing is less than ideal because the sea level is rising at the same time.
That's what they call a double whammy.
I looked at every building in the Bay Area, so just under 1 million buildings.
Tom Parsons is a research geophysicist with the U.S. Geological Survey, the USGS. He studies how seismic stresses build up on the Earth's crust. And lately, he's studying the phenomenon of sinking cities. Turns out the entire Bay Area has sunk as much as 3 inches on average during the last century. The cause? An extra 3.5 trillion pounds of concrete and steel and everything else that goes with 7 to 8 million people living here.
Clearly, the most dense and the tallest buildings are centered in that downtown San Francisco area, and that's where we see the most calculated cumulative settlement from all of those buildings together.
Downtown, of course, is home to the infamous Millennium Tower. It's perhaps the single most recognizable tilting building in the country right now. But the Millennium has a lot of
which tells you something when he says it's the most recognizable tilting building. Like the Leaning Tower of Pisa is probably the most identifiable leaning tower in Italy, right?
Also, let's really quickly, just because he threw a number out there, and I want to do the math on it just to make sure that we recognize exactly how absurd this is. Did he say 3.5 trillion? Or was it 3.1?
I believe it was 3.5.
That's what I thought. Okay. So that is 1,750,000 tons. Because I feel like people think about like millions and then billions and then trillions, and they kind of like lump them together.
Yeah.
But that is so fucking much.
That's
it's
like
insane. That's not a real number.
That's like if you had like, I don't know, 20 whales stacked on every like every like seeable surface here.
Imagine like how horrifying that is. Like it's like, we're not horrified by our like horrifying, like weird like ape hellscape that we've created, but like imagine if it was like 3.5 trillion pounds of beehives.
And also, to be fair, a blue whale only weighs like 150 tons, so that's probably even more blue whales than you think.
Yeah, okay, so maybe we're working
that's
more
so
like
many whales,
50 blue whales just stacked up, like 50 blue whales high, like every surface is covered with 50 blue whales.
Why don't we measure more things than blue whales? That's some shit that I would do in like elementary school, because I learned that they were 100 feet long. Of course, all blue whales are exactly 100 feet long.
I mean, the news often does this kind of stuff anyways, right? Where they're like, and if you're having trouble envisioning that,
it's always football fields.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know exactly.
Who cares about football fields?
Yeah.
I want to measure things in T-Rexes and in blue whales. Those are the only measurements that I want for distance. It's 0.0001 T-Rexes.
Actually, that's how you like determine what system of measurement you use. At a young age, you choose what your favorite dinosaur is, and that's not
dude. Yes,
measure.
Oh, I love that.
Well, I'm a Triceratopsian, so
man. All right. Sorry for all of that.
Yeah.
Keep playing this.
Take a look at the 10 heaviest buildings in San Francisco that exert the...
So, One Market Plaza. I'm glad you pointed that one out, because that's the elephant in this space.
Oh wow! So like, it's not even an average skyscraper. It's much fucking.
Oh yeah, no, it's like
That's
twice or more most of the skyscrapers in the area.
But then it's not even the tallest one though.
No, it's just made out of older shit, and it's fucking heavy because of that.
I'm sorry. Nothing gives me such like a weird existential feeling these days, like numbers do.
Yeah.
Like the heat needed to sinter concrete, or the weight of a building, and I'm just looking at 1,544 million pounds, and I want to cry. Like, so these numbers, no human being should be allowed to do anything that works with these numbers. It's just, that's not something for monkeys.
So,
that's,
and like
I'm gonna go Joe Rogan on this.
Like being a construction worker, it's kind of like, you see a crack in your wall in your house, and you're somewhat alarmed, because, it probably isn't going to fall, but maybe I should get somebody to check on it in case like something like does start to cave. But then like when you're in one of these buildings and you're like on like you're in an area where none of the tenants go because you're a maintenance guy or a construction worker, and you do see like a big fucking crack in something that's load bearing, that's holding up
just
637 million pounds. Yeah. And then it's like,
real.
I can't wait to get out of this fucking building.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or working on the tops of these fucking things. They fucking move.
Yeah. Well, some more than others.
Yeah, some more than others.
Some more than others, as we'll see. So for reference, the Millennium Tower, kind of in the center there, 686 million pounds. The average house places, I want to say, 100 pounds of like building weight on like the average square foot of land.
Yeah, I think the number that I ended up hearing, Mike presented this stuff in workshop last week, and I think the number that
it was like 11,000 pounds per.
Yeah, it was like 110 pounds per.
No, 11,000. Oh yeah, 110 for like an average house,
Yeah.
and then this building is like 11,000 pounds per square foot at its base. Like it's fucking insane. And as we've already noted, these are built on they call it the Old Bay clay. That's what engineers call it. It has a name because everybody knows about it. It's mud under the ground. What they did in the construction of the Millennium Tower and what they did in the construction of a lot of the other buildings here is they drove piles into the ground. So basically they're like, all right, so we know that there's mud under the ground. So what we'll do to stabilize it is we'll just have a bunch of really long piles that will kind of like balance each other out and like keep us stable in the mud. That hasn't worked for the Millennium Tower. Obviously the whole fucking city is sinking, so that's already a problem.
And not only is it not working, but by necessity, every time they end up applying these, it makes it a little bit worse. Like it's
we're gonna
an attempt
see
to
that.
invest.
We're gonna see that
right.
actually. So keep playing this, just to roll it through.
All right.
Pressure on the Earth. At 686 million pounds, Millennium is just the third heaviest development. The top nine all weigh more than 300 million pounds. But Parsons' data suggests they're all sinking, slowly, but evenly. So none of the others is leaning like the Millennium, which is sinking primarily on one side.
The Millennium Tower is an unusual example of tilt, but generally they go down vertically.
The European Space Agency
just like the towers
captured the phenomenon from space. You can see the financial district and other downtown areas show up in yellow, indicating ongoing settlement. All that weight, Parsons.
So they mentioned the financial district is the one that's sinking the most, and I think there's got to be some kind of metaphor in there.
Oh yeah,
where the financial like sector, like I don't know, just has these spikes, right? And then eventually like some of those spikes start going down. Sometimes they go down incredibly fast. Yeah, go ahead and continue unless somebody else has something to say.
Says it's enough to influence an earthquake fault. Fortunately, the San Andreas Fault runs offshore before it reaches San Francisco. So the billions of extra pounds of development in the city is not likely to impact it.
If you have a series of buildings, fairly heavy buildings, all clustered together, they're going to influence each other.
Harry Poulos is an internationally recognized expert on tall building foundations.
You're not allowed to have that
name.
May
be no seismic
Henry Poulos.
There's been little research about the collective impact of entire corridors of high rises on the earth below.
I've been doing foundation design for, I guess, nearly 30 years now, and it's not something that we've actually ever even thought about. Not on the sort of scale that you're talking about.
Anything that's contributing to lowering the ground surface is something we should be worried about.
Parsons says he's now studying Manhattan because it's sinking too.
Of course.
And faces the same threat as San Francisco from climate change. Parsons points out ground level and sea level heading in opposite directions is a dangerous scenario for coastal cities.
So if you have all of this going on when you're right near the waterline, in some cases in San Francisco, then you have to worry about big storms as sea level comes up and inundation more frequently.
San Francisco building officials say they have long-term plans to protect against climate change by building up the seawall.
Oh,
In the
good.
meantime-
Put more buildings on top
for
of
settlement
stuff.
for at least a decade after construction. Jackson Vanderbecken,
Is
NBC.
your city
Maybe a
sinking
Bay
because of buildings? Have you tried building more?
Maybe I can stab this wound shut.
We're gonna raise the seawall.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
that's great. Because dams infamous for never breaking.
Yeah, well, and like tsunamis.
Infamous for caring about what your seawall looks like.
Yeah, because like I don't know what weird calculus it is, but like the closer you are to the actual shoreline, the magnitudes more damage that a tsunami can do.
Yeah.
Right.
A seawall.
Let's
that
go
rules.
to the next link here. And this is a nerd.
Oh, hell
I'm
yeah.
sure he's a fine gentleman,
Let's see.
but I dislike him because he simps for buildings and engineers, and he even at some points, admits that this whole thing is kind of like experimental. But as long as the engineers keep saying, "Oh, this new thing is okay," it'll be fine.
Always trust the math.
So I have it. Go ahead.
He's got this crane back here.
Yeah,
as like the main focus of like I guess probably I'm guessing they fascinate him. And he's probably like all about them, but it's like probably like the single most like dangerous
cranes are fucking
piece of
nightmares.
equipment that humans have ever made.
Another thing that freaks me out when I see him in a weird existential way.
Shouldn't exist. You
Yeah,
build a temporary building that spins around and picks up tons of weight.
I get anxiety anytime I drive like underneath a crane. It only takes seconds for you to become like mincemeat on the ground, and those things fall apart all the goddamn time.
Yeah, right. and like a lapse of focus from the crane operator for like a fucking second.
I mean, it's literally it's a machine that again an elementary school kid would build.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to get stuff up there. Let's tie two sticks together and make it wobble.
It's T-pose construction.
Nice.
So I've skipped ahead a bit in the video where he kind of goes into like why it's sinking. We already talked about why it's sinking. It's built on mud. The pile foundations don't actually work how they probably should. He's going to talk about some things. He's going to show us what the proposed fix is, which is clown world, like literally again going back to like a kid could think of this idea sort of stuff. So go ahead and play it, John.
The result was that by 2016, when the public first learned about the issue, the building had already sunk more than 16 inches or 41 centimeters, triple the movement that was anticipated for its entire lifetime. Unfortunately, that settlement wasn't happening evenly. Instead, the northwest corner had sunk a little lower than the rest of the foundation, causing the tower to tilt several inches in that direction. The media had a field day reporting on the Leaning Tower of San Francisco, and accusations started flying about who was to blame and whether the city had covered up details about the building's movement. The developer continued insisting that the building was safe, reiterating that all buildings settle over time and the Millennium Tower was no different. But it definitely was different, at least in magnitude. With so much attention to the building, the city commissioned a panel of experts in 2017 to assess its safety, both for everyday use and in the event of a strong earthquake. By that time, the building had settled another inch and was out of plumb by more than a foot or 30 centimeters. That's not something you could notice by eye and was probably only discernible to the most perceptive residents, but it's well beyond the 6 inches.
It was only discernible to the people wearing roller skates in the hallway.
Yeah.
So that and that's absolute bullshit, because leans look worse.
When you've got something huge
bigger,
and you tilt it just a little bit.
Yeah, the bigger they get. Like you can be off by a half an inch in like a 10-foot by 10-foot room trying to Well, no, an inch people will notice. Fucking a half inch, a lot of people won't notice, you know?
Yeah. Well,
it adds up to a lot, you know?
Did you guys know that Wittgenstein ended up having like I think it was a kitchen, but he was having a house built, and then he had them tear out the entire ceiling just to raise it by like a centimeter.
That sounds about right. I've worked on tenant renovation projects for when I was working at the city, and you know, the city hall was rented out to people, private interest. Great. Yeah, it's always good when you tie your capital finance into the government in a very direct way. But anyways, I worked on tenant renovations where people would literally be like, yeah, the ceiling feels a little bit too low. I think if it was like an inch or two higher, it would be better. And so you had to like reconstruct the entire fucking I didn't do it myself. Like, I hired out a contractor because I'm like, fuck you, it's your dime, I guess.
Amazing.
But yeah, no, they'll get particular about that kind of stuff. And be like, yeah, I measured it from ceiling to floor and it's only 9 feet and I want a little bit more than that. And a lot of times what it boils down to is like some fucking dipshit, like, what is it? A professional managerial type read a study where like the ideal height of a room is such and such feet kind of stuff. And they'll be like, yeah, I really want an ideal working place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make you raise this by a couple of inches because it doesn't feel right to me.
Incredible.
Oh my God. And there's like hundreds of pounds of equipment, especially in like these multi-tenant space buildings. Even a generally like small one, like just a 4-story building, there can be hundreds of pounds of equipment in the ceilings. Yeah, and then those things have to get raised too when you raise that stupid tile ceiling that you see in office spaces.
So you got to think also, like we talked about scale briefly, but imagine you're, I don't know, a renter of the top suite in this fucking building, and yeah, the engineers say you're living in a safe building that can withstand an earthquake, but I don't know, just the dysfunction of not being able to set an egg down on your countertop because it'll roll off. Like maybe the plumbing in your shower, like because you know shower tile is like graded to the drain. Maybe it's no longer graded properly, so water just kind of sits in a corner. Like that's all not good stuff, and it does have like real actual building. If you have sitting water even on like nice bathroom tile, it'll eventually seep through. That's just what water does. Water hates buildings.
As it should.
As it should.
They're mortal enemies.
I consider myself a water type person.
You're water guy?
Yeah, I'm a water guy. No. I just like drinking.
I'm a water guy. Stay hydrated, guys.
Continue,
guys, if you don't have a glass of water right now, get a glass of water. If you do have a bunch of glasses sitting around, please take those, bring them to the kitchen. We love you.
I actually do have water this time.
See? You gotta have water.
Even I drink water. That should say something. John, please continue.
Let's simp for engineering.
Is allowed by the building code. Even so, the panel found that the building was completely safe, and the settlement had not compromised its ability to withstand strong earthquakes. However, they cautioned that the movement hadn't stopped and further tilting may affect the building's safety. At the same time, and
that's a key note right there. Go ahead and pause.
Confirming.
The panel concluded that further tilting may pose a problem for the building's safety. So this guy, you know, and I feel a little bit bad for him because he may have prematurely made this video, and I think possibly had he waited on this a little bit, he may have reconsidered simping so hard for this building, because we're gonna learn some things about further tilt in a few minutes. Go ahead and continue. Sorry.
The building's safety, the condominium prices were plummeting. No one wanted to live in a building that was sinking into the ground with no sign of slowing down. It didn't take long for lawsuits to be filed. By the end of it, just about every person and organization related in any way to the Millennium Tower was involved in at least one lawsuit, including individual residents, the Homeowners Association, the building developer, the Trans-Bay Joint Powers Authority, and many others. In total, there were 9 separate lawsuits involving around 400 individual parties. After many years of complex litigation, a comprehensive settlement of the legal kind was eventually reached through private mediation. The result was that no one took the blame for the building's excessive movement, condo owners would be compensated for the loss of property values, and most importantly, the building would be fixed. During mediation, the retrofits to the building's foundation to slow the sinking and de-tilt the tower were a big point of contention. One early plan was to install hundreds of micropiles, small diameter drilled piles, through the existing foundation down to bedrock. But the estimated cost for the repair was as much as $500 million, more than the original cost of the entire building. Turns out it's a lot easier to drill foundation piles before the building's built than afterwards. The challenges associated with working below the building, like access, vibrations, noise, and lack of space, drove up the price, and the parties couldn't agree to pay such a substantial cost. An unconventional alternative proposed by the developer's engineer ended up resolving the dispute. And
the alternative is you just punch it really hard at the top.
We're about to enter a childlike mode of fixing things.
Yes,
not unlike what Dorian just said.
Oh no! we're gonna attach a small nuclear device to the apex of the tower.
What we're gonna do to the asteroid is we're actually going to turn it into 50 asteroids by blowing it up.
Well, it's kind of like the dumb thing that we do that I kind of mentioned earlier, was that to fix this problem we have to create 100 problems.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I
think it's more like 50 in this case.
Well, each technology true. Produces a new accident.
There you go. Wow, we brought the theory into it.
We did it again. Virilio in the chat.
Press play.
So this riding is currently under construction. The proposed fix to the Millennium Tower is to install piles along 2 sides of the building's perimeter. That may seem kind of simple, but there's a lot of clever engineering involved to make it work. 52 piles will be drilled along the north and west sides of the tower, all the way down to bedrock. Unlike the original plan, these piles will be installed outside the building below the adjacent sidewalks, saving a significant amount on the construction cost. An extension to the building's existing concrete slab will be installed around each pile, but not rigidly attached to them. Instead, each pile will be sleeved through and extended above the concrete slab so that the building can move.
God, that's so hot.
The slab will be equipped with steel beams centered above each pile and anchored deep within the concrete. Finally, hydraulic jacks will be installed between each of the 52 piles and beams. Once everything is installed, the contractor will use the hydraulic jacks to lift the building's foundation, transferring about 20% of the load onto the new perimeter piles. That means each one will be carrying around 800,000 pounds or 360,000 kilograms. The goal of the upgrade is to remove weight from the clay soils below
Look
the
at this.
building.
Look at this fucking line. It just keeps going forever.
And thus,
No.
It's like, I don't know, 4 times, like, almost 5 times the size of the original fucking pile foundation.
It's a 75-foot fucking.
No. It's
meter.
Yeah, no, it's 75
God.
meters. It's 250 feet down to the fucking bedrock.
So
that they're going to drill
good.
these things.
This also shows that they could have taken all of the original foundation pylons
and done that. Yeah,
and done that from the beginning.
Earlier on in the video, I think he discussed how this is normal construction in the area, so no engineers even thought to like drill down further than what they did for the original piles.
That's what their job is supposed to be, though.
Right? Yeah, like I don't know, thinking ahead.
But it's expensive.
Yeah, that is what it all boils down to. Is it's expensive.
That means engineers are completely fucking useless beyond waiting for a fucking accident. Yeah. Because after they come up with a new technology, fucking tradesmen and construction workers fucking are the ones that actually like do this shit. And they're the ones that work on the rule of thumb.
Well, I mean, our local STEM lord.
Yeah, I mean, our entire economy and thereby the entirety of our society is predicated on doing things only to the degree that you need to.
Yeah.
Right. At least when it comes to things like this, or why we had all these issues with COVID and continue to, where it's just it might cause a problem, but it's worth taking the risk. It's all externalities. We don't need that many hospital beds.
Well, yeah. But like the thing is like engineers, like they have a license to come up with new things.
Yeah.
Like, yes. And yeah, like engineers are allowed to math around building codes because they did the math. They don't have to fucking they don't have to fucking do a certain thing. But then when something fucks up, they go, well, how could we know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other,
I was just relying on math
and standard building practices.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing is every building at this scope is experiment. I mean, you could boil it down to every building is experimental. You could build a small house and it could turn out that, I don't know, it's built on a fucking Native American graveyard or something, and the spirits are rising up to kill you.
Why didn't they move the bodies?
You only know about that when the Navajo is standing at your the foot of your bed at every night, staring at you and chanting incantations or whatever.
When the poltergeist makes you peel off your face in the mirror.
You only know about your building error in that case when
when there are clowns under your bed. Yeah.
when the skinwalkers start tapping on your window. But these are much smaller issues, obviously, when you build a house. Than when you build I don't know how many stories this is. It's some obscene amount of fucking height. It weighs 600 million fucking pounds, 680 million pounds. So, gigantic fucking building built on what is that? Artificial clay and then sand.
Yeah, they're only like 70 feet below grade.
Yeah, and mind you, there's the young bay clay, there's the Colma sand, and then there's the old bay clay. and then after several hundred feet of old bay clay, you finally get to bedrock. But this is all these kind of mega structures are experiments essentially, and we only find out what's wrong with them as they start tilting 2 feet off where they're supposed to be.
Well, you guys know that old Bible story about how you're supposed to build your house on clay,
right,
or sand ideally. I think.
Well, a mixture of both is really what you want. You want clay and sand, and then more clay.
That's what Peter means. Actually, it's Latin for sand sandwiched between two different types of clay. Causing a building to tilt. Dude, I really want these hydraulic jacks to just fucking push the building over.
Well, I mean that's
say no deaths. I don't want the deaths. But.
Yeah, let's go ahead and say that we don't want anybody to be hurt by this, except for, I don't know, maybe the primary engineer of the project. maybe he's the only guy there. He's just checking it out at night because he's like thinking about it a lot, and then it blows up on him.
Well, we don't. This is not an accusation in any way, but just because we're trying to work out the ethics in this thought experiment. Just imagining he's also a pedophile.
Yeah, that makes everything okay.
Just imagining that it again entirely imaginary. The engineer of the Millennium Tower is a pedophile.
Well, he is working with finance people, so
which none of them.
None of it. No.
Wait, hold on.
He built.
Hold on. I'm getting news about finance people.
Are they building these? There's something going on here, guys, where they're drilling a bunch of small holes into the ground.
Oh man, that's where they put the child bodies.
There you go. This is a Wayfair cabinet in a building kind of thing. That's what's happening.
Let's continue this video.
God, I'm a Q guy now, guys. I've decided it.
Yeah, me too, probably.
Slowing down the settlement. The design requires that the holes be over-drilled so that no part of the new piles can come into contact with the old bay clay and put any weight on this weak subsurface layer. The annular space between each pile and the clay will be filled with low-strength material only after the hydraulic jacking operation is complete. Once the building is safely...
Wait, so they also have to sheathe it later?
They're also sheathing it with material that's just weak material.
And you want it to be weak so it flexes, or
I guess that's the premise, but the problem is that they're saying, oh, we don't want the old bay clay in contact with anything. Well, the old bay clay is surrounding this entire thing, and we're already talking about a building that's experiencing shifting. I don't know, probably a problem.
Yeah.
But cool. I love this jack it up solution where you like a fucking I don't know, cartoon child. They're just like, what if we got really big jacks? What if I ask one of my fairy godparents for really big jacks, and we just jack the building up, because that's how things work in a cartoon, so it must work in real life.
Of course, yeah.
I almost want to, I'm writing this piece about buildings that's eventually going to be published, and I almost want to make the bet that sometime in our in the near future, we're going to see this building fall over genuinely, and it's going to be like a horrific thing that happens to the city, because this is clown show shit, and this clown show shit is not even going as well as they want it to, as we'll see in a video in a few minutes.
No.
So well, let's go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
I've got something that maybe the listener and or viewer might want to know about concrete, which is what all this shit is made out of, right?
We love concrete here.
Yeah. So concrete, one, it has to cure. So this foundation over here, this light gray area, is all cured and it's harder, right?
Right.
So this new stuff is not going to be cured, or they're going to have to wait for it to cure.
They're going to have to wait for it to cure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it takes 5 years or more, or something like that, for concrete to reach its full.
Yeah, concrete does not just it'll get hard enough to build on if you're building a reasonable structure. Within a week is usually the timetable. This is going to take a very long time to cure properly, and their solution is we'll take this much younger concrete and put it in a slip joint inside the existing foundation, and then we'll have a big jack, and this big jack will push the building up, and then we'll be good.
Yeah, and I guess I hope that they're going to make this nub out of reinforced concrete.
I mean, the whole thing is going to be made out of reinforced concrete, I'm sure, but
yeah, well, hopefully. Because concrete only has good compression strength, not tensile strength.
Yeah.
Let's
watch a little bit more of this.
They're the engineers. We should trust them.
Yeah, right. they never fuck up.
Each
Never fuck up.
pile will be enclosed in a concrete vault below the ground. Everything will be backfilled, and the sidewalks will be replaced.
Like it
if
never
all goes
happened.
according to plan, the settlement on the north and west sides of the building will be completely arrested. With less load on the original foundation, the sinking of the other two sides will gradually slow to a stop, straightening the building back to its original plumbness, but just a couple of feet lower than where it started. Of course, expensive and innovative construction projects rarely do go according to plan, and this one's no different. The city of San Francisco and the design.
So what happens after it corrects and it starts to sink down straight? Do they have to then dig up their fucking all the pylons and
then they just have like a garden floor and then a B1 and a B2. Yeah, it's cool. It's like kind of an East Coast feel.
What's eventually going to happen is they're going to have to build stairs down into the front door.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, won't it start tipping in the other direction though, right?
Because
because this is on bedrock, right? So eventually it's going to, sink down. If the whole city is sinking, this thing is not sinking anymore. It's on bedrock.
Well, they had the jacks are on like a slip joint of the concrete, so.
But they capped it with backfill.
I don't know why you would bring that up. That doesn't seem very important. Also, I'm sure that the jacks, can only extend so far. So it seems like a very short-term solution, all things considered. At the very least, they're going to have to one day probably dig up those. Let's say this works and let's say this holds. One day they're going to have to dig up those fucking vaults because, like you're saying, the other side of the building is going to sink and these jacks are going to be holding up the other side. So it'll just tilt a different direction. And now all these people who have, spent the last 5 years, carefully setting their eggs in one corner of the counter so that it doesn't roll off because that's where the tiles are just right. They're now going to have to find a different corner of the counter because it's going to be tilted the complete opposite direction.
I mean, that's at least convenient because it's just going to be, the opposite corner.
Well,
so they'll figure it out. It'll be fine.
I mean, that's assuming everything on the tiles is all completely perfect and standard across itself, which isn't.
Do you imagine that anything in this building is not perfect?
I believe there may be some foundational issues here. Let's
cool,
let's try to roll this out.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we may have run as much as we need to of this guy.
This guy's faces.
Yeah.
He's always got his eyes closed.
So this was actually go back to the video real quick so I can look at the release date of that. November 16th. All right, cool. Go back to the next link. This is December 7th, so not a whole lot of time. Less than a full month later, and there's some new information about this building.
San Francisco Millennium Tower tilts 1/4 inch in 4 days. That rules.
During a 4-day period last month, San Francisco's Millennium Tower tilted another 1/4 of an inch, again, in just 4 days. This happened during a process to fix the building. Our investigative reporter, Jackson Vanderbecken, has been on the forefront of the story from the very beginning and has the update tonight.
Here at the Millennium Tower, crews are in the process of installing test piles down to bedrock. They're using methods to limit settlement during the so-called fix of the already leaning luxury high-rise in downtown San Francisco. So far this year, monitoring data released by the city shows the tower has sunk nearly 2 more inches at one corner and is now leaning over 2 feet out at the northwest side. And the building sank again during installation of a test pile last month. New data shows the tower also tilted 1/4 of an inch in just 4 days. And this may explain why. It's ground monitoring data from down deep under the building where a layer of clay resides. There you can see a sudden fluctuation, reflecting a loss of 12 feet in the groundwater level near the corner of the building over that 4-day period.
This is a large drop. You can't see the scale on this plot, but this is a pretty dramatic effect.
While the pressure level came back up, veteran geotechnical engineer Bob Pike believes the brief loss likely triggered settlement and suspects the drilling process during the fix is to blame.
It's no different from sucking a straw into a milkshake.
The sucking, he believes,
can we pause real quick?
Used to vacuum up debris during drilling.
He says sucking a straw into sucking a straw that's in a milkshake, and I swear to God, if that's not a There Will Be Blood reference, he did it anyways, and I love it. Fucking Based. It's my favorite movie. Go ahead.
It's that process he suspects that's undermining the Old Bay clay layer under the building's foundation long enough for settlement to occur.
You can accidentally remove soil that you want to stay in place.
Rune Storson of UC Berkeley Center for Catastrophic Risk Management says the data suggests fix engineers clearly could do more to refine their methods.
You're always going to get some degree of settlement. Obviously, you want that to be as low as possible.
Fix designer Ron Hamburger has assured city officials
Ron Hamburger.
Yeah, his name is Ron Hamburger.
Within expected levels. He now has city permission to put in 2 more test piles. Testing, he says, is needed to help determine how many piles will be used to shore up the structure. Jackson Vanderbecken, NBC, Bay Area News.
All right.
That's fucking funny. That's good.
So yeah, while they're in the middle of fixing this fucking thing, make sure you pause that. We don't do ads on this channel, John. While they're in the middle of the fix, they accidentally made the building sink more. This was unintended. And as the geologist experts are saying, like,
sometimes sand, you don't want it to move, and it moves anyway. You tell it not to, and then that rules.
So then what happens is Ron Hamburger, the fix designer,
Hamburger,
says, hey, everything's fine. We knew this was gonna happen. Totally. We knew this was gonna happen.
Which, by the way, Ron Hamburger, definitely not the name of someone that would be
one of
have any
them.
predilections,
Yeah, one of those Wayfair guys. Go
Yeah,
ahead and go to the next
Ron
one.
Wayfair Hamburger.
I got a package in the mail, by the way, that says Michael Christmas Deebs on it.
Oh, that's fun.
So I guess I'm supposed to wait until Christmas based on what it says, but I thought about my middle name being Christmas for a long time, and I was like,
You should.
No.
Oh, that would be so funny with your last name. Actually, I'm not going to dox you, but that's really good.
No, it would be funny. Go ahead and play this clip.
San Francisco's infamous sinking and tilting Millennium Tower. Our investigative unit has learned the outside firm hired to monitor the construction project to fix the problem is no longer allowed to observe the work in person. The de facto ban comes after the monitor found problems with some of the drilling and excavation. Investigative reporter Jackson Vanderbecken has a story you'll see only on NBC Bay Area.
Wow.
Here at the Millennium Tower, a 3rd test pile is being installed, more than 250 feet down to bedrock on Fremont Street, where the luxury high-rise is now leaning more than 2 feet at the top. During earlier testing, an independent expert, Dan Brown and Associates, was there to keep an eye on the work. Brown drafted reports like this one, which concluded new methods aimed at securing the deep foundation to keep the building from sinking further have not all worked to plan. Shortly after his last report, fix designer Ron Hamburger told city officials the firm's on-site presence is no longer necessary, given the excellent results to date. In a November 30th letter...
What?
Cool.
Yeah, so the construction company had a third-party observer Not hired by the construction company, hired by the city, I believe. But basically, there was a third party overseeing the construction work, like, you know, just as like a measure of like checks and balances, I guess. You know, it's good to have somebody that doesn't have skin in the construction game to be overseeing this and going, hey, we think the construction company is doing something bad. Like, they're incentivized to find something bad, of course. But it's good to have people that are incentivized to find something bad in this process. That's the entire point of inspections in general, is to be incentivized to find something bad and therefore to maintain the building standards that way. So what happened is Dan Brown and Associates, the third party observer, put out reports that were saying, hey, this process is not going according to plan, and we don't think that they're doing it the right way. And the construction company working on the fix said, we've decided that we don't need Dan Brown and Associates on the site anymore. And the city has actually agreed to this, which is where the problem of, like, I don't know, maybe money and politics and stuff kind of rears its ugly head. So yeah, now there's no third party observer on site because they're banned from observing the site. Not great, I would say. But I think there's a little bit more to this clip if we.
Letter, Hamburger declared, settlement monitoring indicates that no additional settlement or tilting occurred as a result of this 24-inch pilot installation.
Which is false.
Even though data released by the city shows the tower tilted another 1/4 inch in just 4 days when that first 24-inch support pile was installed, which is alarming to geotechnical engineers like Bob Pike, a critic of the fix project.
Here is the data. This last leg here shows the rate of settlement during the installation of that first 24-inch pile. Hamburger said no additional.
Wait, so how many? It was 1/4 of an inch, right?
Yeah, 1/4 of an inch of tilt and 2 inches additional sinking while they were drilling this test pile.
So you put 2 feet of pile in, you lean 2 more inches.
No.
You sink 2 more inches.
It was 2 feet diameter and then like all the way down to bedrock.
Oh, they actually got it all the way down to bedrock.
Yeah. They got it all the way down there, I guess, but it sunk another 2 inches in the process, which wasn't part of the plan, and they're lying about it because they're telling the city there was no additional sinking when clearly there was another 4 degrees of tilt, and not 4 degrees, 1/4 inch of tilt, and 2 inches of sinkage. So, and now the third party observer is no longer on the site because the city has agreed that we don't need them anymore.
God bless. Good work.
Yeah.
That bodes well for everyone.
This is why I'm convinced we're going to see this fucking building fall down at some point.
Yeah.
How okay. So at first I was thinking it would be pretty funny if it like just tilted over because of the jacks. But how funny would it be if somehow the whole thing just fell straight down into the earth?
That would be
just like into the core of the earth.
Not only ideal, but fucking hilarious.
It's like when you demolish a building, but
Or when you fake like the Twin Towers falling down. And
exactly. When it pancaking.
Pancaking? Not in my Twin Towers. John, we seem to have lost your camera. Are you okay over there?
Yeah.
He's just doing a little.
Did your camera just die?
No. My third party app thing stopped working. I just got to restart it, I think.
Third party app.
All hail the listener.
Cool. Well, hard to get you to do something. If we could play out the clip, it's like you're coming back.
Settlement.
Brown's follow-up report explains what might have happened. He says crews hit upon a layer of loose sand while drilling down near bedrock and inadvertently mined or sucked out more than 5 tons of material during the drilling process.
Can we pause real quick?
Truckloads of extra.
That loose sand they're talking about is the Kalima sand area. A thing that we know about, and a thing that a consistent feature of sand is that it's very inconsistent. So treating it like the sand is like just always going to be the same no matter where you're drilling is a mistake, obviously. Continue, sorry. Makes me lose my mind.
Concrete grout to fill it all back in. His report says the same thing happened 2 other times back in August, before fix work was first halted as a precaution. None of those findings had been released publicly when the city okayed keeping Brown's firm off-site and having them only analyze daily drilling data provided to them.
This is not a proper review.
Pike says Dan Brown's earlier critical reports are proof of the value of first-hand observation.
I'm sorry, pause it.
For a situation like this.
Isn't Dan Brown the guy that wrote all those conspiracy books about the Vatican and shit?
I think they may be different Dan Browns.
No.
Right.
No, this man is
yes,
this man
all
is
Dan Browns.
is envisioning patterns. This tower is entirely safe.
Will nobody stop Dan Brown?
Will nobody stop Dan Brown? All right, sorry, go on.
The reviewer needs to be on site and have full access to what's going on.
Supervisor Aaron Peskin is skeptical of the decision to
None of
diminish
these things
Brown's
are real.
oversight role.
So bottom line is it's not okay. We wanted a 3rd set of eyes and ears. The Department of Building Inspection came before the Board of Supervisors and said that they were there for the duration of the installation.
Peskin says he'll take up the issue at a hearing set for January 6th.
NBC, Bay Area News.
Maybe it'll be another foot off Plum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Love government.
Yeah.
So that's the Millennium Tower is going to fall probably within our lifetimes and very shortly at that.
Very cool
segment of the podcast. John, I believe the next set of links is yours actually.
Yeah, because like the whole thing about these like concrete foundations and how honestly this skyscraper is probably made is with a couple of different techniques. Like there's reinforced concrete, normal shit. You throw rebar in a box and fill it with cement, make it real hard. It gives it that tensile strength that.
Well, they also have like some new like reinforced concrete stuff that they're making where they take essentially what's like steel splinters and they mix it in with the concrete and it's like super reinforced concrete or some shit.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I love it when we put more like weird aerosol things that could possibly kill us in our building construction.
Well, what's funny in addition is that is what most concrete essentially is anyway, is that it has vitrified minerals or else like sintered metal that's already kind of not aerosolized but mixed in with the limestone, and so it's just layers and layers of the same tactic being used. It's kind of interesting, which is also great for the environment. Again, reminder for everyone that concrete is actually the largest producer of carbon emissions on the planet and the second most used resource after water. So that's cool.
Which coincidentally, it does use water in its process. So
it does.
That's probably the only reason why it's the second second most used material.
Damn.
But there's a couple of other techniques that they've come up with, because one of the problems with putting rebar into the concrete is that the rebar only becomes most strong later on in the structure's life, when the bars get stretched by the weight of whatever the fuck you put on it.
So they're like, steel has a lot of tensile strength, and like you talked about earlier, steel or concrete has a lot of compression strength, but not a lot of tensile strength. And steel, which is what rebar is made out of, has a lot of tensile strength to it. So you combine these two things, the compression strength and then the pull, the tensile strength on the rebar, and it's like, shit, this will stand for at least 10 years.
So, and to make but also, you know, the rebar has its limits, and you know, they're like, well, what are we going to do, because we want to make crazier and crazier mega buildings and shit like that, and mega structures. What can we do to make the steel have higher tensile strength sooner? So what they do is they stretch the steel before it's installed, either in what they call pre or post tension foundations, which it's just, do you do it when it's wet or do you do it when it's kind of dry? But they both have very similar problems.
I'm a dry guy myself.
I like it dry. Yeah. But let's I'm also going to start with because this is in your homes too. It's not just skyscrapers. They decided to take this technology over to where people live their lives. And here's a realtor doing apologetics for I'm guessing a luxury home, which most luxury homes are built like crap anyways.
You know, I could tell by the fact that he doesn't have a proper like upper lip that he was going to be a bad person to listen to.
But yeah, he's going to try to calm you down about a weird growth coming out of your house. And this is probably one of the most mild of failures of a post-tension foundation.
Miser with 1835 Realty. Wanted to show you something that in my 20 years of being in the business, I have never seen.
That's because he doesn't work construction. This shit happens all the time.
Yeah, no.
Before we had a home.
Yeah, I've never seen this before.
Under contract, and during the home inspection, the inspector found this. And what this is one of the post-tension cables that is in the foundation. It runs about every 2 feet. These cables run the width and the length of the house. And what can happen is what we see here. It actually has snapped. Now, we're not 100% certain if it just came loose on the other side and jostled out of here.
So again, they've turned like a 9mm diameter steel cable into a rubber band.
Yeah.
And they put it in your house.
Great.
And in this one, they put them every 2 feet.
Fucking stupid as shit. And this is a construction method that you don't even like really fucking need, honestly. Like,
not for a house unless you've got fucking 3 tons of foundation for your crazy fucking like 3-story fucking 3,800 square foot fucking house.
Yeah, unless you're working with some kind of like cantilever house, which why would you do that?
Dude, never mind.
Go ahead, John.
As a result of it, or if it actually snapped in the middle and has to be pulled out from both sides. Now you might think, wow, the foundation, that's a big problem. Actually, really not a big deal at all. What they are going to do is they will go to the other side of the house and take away the concrete and take a look and see if it broke or just slid out of place. If it broke, they'll slide both ends out, and there's a sleeve. It's inside of a sleeve, so they can pull it out and just put a new one in. And then they'll just do as if they were building the house. They'll tighten both sides. They take it up to about 1,000 pounds of pressure on each side. And so they'll put the cable back into place, and then they will, of course, deal cosmetically with the concrete. But the foundation right now is really not in any trouble. It's not going to be in any trouble once they do the repair. Everything will be good. This is one of the things. This is a builder home. It's really not that old, and is actually covered by the builder's warranty. So that is a tension cable that has busted out. And actually, this was pretty minor, and we don't suspect that it was actually a clean break. We think it might have just come loose on the other side, because if it were to actually break, most of them come out with such force and with a whole lot more cable that it actually blows chunks of it out. But this
and goes flying.
Amazing.
Yeah. And this is, again, not a feature that needs to be installed in a house.
And it flying straight out and only, you know, maybe like fucking like killing your neighbor, fucking mowing their yard, the fucking house behind you.
Who likes their neighbors anyways?
Yeah, fuck you.
I've never spoken to him, but I killed him with my giant metal rubber band.
Thankfully, the construction company had to take liability for it.
So for some god awful reason, because they were, you know, scared of them.
Yeah.
They used to only take a few instead of every 2 feet, but instead of pulling it straight, they would weave it through the foundation like catty corner.
It's gotta be worse.
Well, those were the ones that would pop straight up out of the foundation and like dismember people when they would snap.
Amazing.
Yeah. Now they only shoot out like a cannon.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We like to externalize our our internal problems.
Now let's watch a house that had one of those woven fucking ones.
Let's watch that.
And this guy,
it's an actual failure in motion. That's great.
Well, yeah. So this one is a foundation repairman, I believe, surveying a job that he's got to try to fix now.
Oh, I was hoping we were gonna see like one fail and like watch it lacerate everything around it, but this is cool too, I guess.
Yeah. So this is that you know, if it had been major, you know, like this is what that is.
About a 30-year-old house in Ranelette, which is built with post-tension cable rather than rebar or piers. And here's
do you have this turned down at all?
Yeah, it is.
The foundation has definitely failed.
Jesus Christ.
Look over here. The other side, you can see the exposed post-tension cable.
We're looking at a brick house right now where everything is just
seams.
It's falling apart at the seams and things are all misaligned. It's a really kind of curious, spooky thing to see.
Yeah. And like how old, like if he hadn't have told you how old this house is, like seeing how dilapidated this house looks so far, what would you age it at, Dorian?
God, I don't know, man. I mean, based on that, maybe built in the 60s, like with
not
its shit snapping together, snapping apart. But no, yeah.
I have a client who lives in a 125-year-old house built on sticks,
built the way God intended.
Right.
And it's not fucking leaning.
Yeah.
Or falling apart.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the thing, is that it's newer construction methods that are more cost effective seem not as good.
Well, this post-tension thing, this was supposed to keep your foundation from cracking. That's what this technology is for.
Did an engineer think of this? Is that the problem?
Yeah. Like
right.
so like if a little pocket of sand or dirt underneath your house gets, you know, scooped out by water, that these cables are supposed to allow your foundation to settle into that gap without your house falling down. But this is what happens instead, a lot of times.
May or may not have been stretched. But in theory, this type of foundation, this slab will move uniformly. However,
Oh no.
Jesus Christ! There
big
is
ass crack in the ground.
Massive crack in the ground there.
Corner to corner through their kitchen.
Could you go back like I don't know, 10 seconds? Back to the beginning when we were looking at the crack.
That was...
No. It's back.
Oh, it's back.
You're jumping forward. Yeah. All right. Okay. Stop right there. Oh,
beautiful.
Keep playing.
Oh.
And then pause right here. They had to put that's ceiling foam. Not ceiling as in the roof above you, but ceiling foam
expanding
as in
silicone.
Yeah, the expanding foam. They had to put ceiling foam in their fucking cabinets. It looks like because
that's so funny.
They probably before this whole thing started cracking, they probably had like weird separations in their cabinets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Things probably just like everything probably just like started falling apart, and they probably just thought it was like shoddy craftsmanship on their Finnish carpenters and stuff.
Well, that's what I was saying about like the person that lives at the top floor of the Millennium Tower. Like that 2 fucking feet of lean like means like they have to like any round object they try to put down on a table, they can't do that anymore. They have to like have little blocks in place for it. And this is like a smaller scale thing where it's like this foundation is like buckling under its own stupid shit. So like everything inside is like bowing and moving and like things are probably like coming off of the walls a little bit or like separating from the ground. Like it
suicided itself.
Yeah.
Because like this crack right here, like so like if you follow this crack, I bet you if you went to the exterior of the foundation and you just dug this crack out, it would be the cable.
Yeah, no, without a doubt, yeah, because it is just woven in, right?
Yeah, a lot of these like 30-year-old houses that have it has like this weird net, and God forbid you actually like cut one, like because you want to do a bathroom renovation or something like that.
Yeah, it's such a bad idea.
Yeah,
continue playing this through. This is fascinating.
Down in the middle. About 3 inches, and it heaved back up.
Oh
and then
no!
It dropped another 4 inches. Carpet's been pulled back.
Holy shit! Pause right there.
Huge crack on the other side of the house, like goes all the way through. You can see
go back
part
to
of
that
it lifting.
fucking level.
That's so good.
That level is like floating off of the fucking ground on both sides. Holy
levitating
shit.
level. Yeah, so we have both sides of it, not just one that are lifting up.
Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable. Which means, I mean, that's confusing to me and really funny. No, it's not confusing anymore. I thought about it for just a second.
Yeah, that's like because the center of where the cable is, right?
Well, no, I was just thinking about like, so it's pretty flat on the other side where the other crack is.
Oh, right.
And so there's a crack on either end, and it's lifting here so that they're kind of like meeting together like a volcano.
Yeah.
To some degree, like it's way more extreme on the right side. It looks like
it's like plate tectonics simulation.
Yeah, it really is. But I was like, why the fuck? How are they both angled like that if it's so flat on the other end? And it's like, no, the whole thing is just at an angle now.
Yeah.
Well, and so like on the larger scale with the larger mega buildings that used to have this interwoven pattern in them, where like you see this bow up in these big foundations. They used to do like they're thicker diameter cables, and they're under even more fucking tension than just 1,000 pounds. I think that they go up to like 6 or something like that. But those were the ones, like this one is trying to pop out of the foundation, but I guess luckily this is just a residential foundation and it was only under 1,000 pounds, and it did not explode out of the foundation while somebody was standing on it.
So how'd your grandpa die? The floor reached out to stab him.
This is Lovecraftian, honestly, like in a certain sense, like where your house just devours you on accident.
Yeah.
I think
the unthinking cyclopean network of wires underneath my house has decided to destroy me today.
It's the alternate ending to the Rants in the Walls. Yeah.
All right, let's keep rolling this. This is fucking amazing.
This crack in the slab.
Oh God.
This is just one example of how post-tension cables do indeed fail, and fail quite miserably at that.
The crack in the floor is probably like 3/4 of an inch wide.
Yeah, and
maybe
there's
wider.
There's like almost a whole inch of lift there.
Yeah.
Like, well, he said 4 inches in some places.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, 4 inches makes sense because that's like
the
standard foundation. The standard foundation pour is like 8 inches, I think. So like literally half of the foundation of difference there in that pour.
Very cool, guys.
For the listener, like the crack in the floor in some of these places, you could probably drop your cell phone down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
easily. Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
You think that space next to your seat in the car is bad? This thing's gonna eat.
You're never
kids.
getting that shit out. You got to get a fucking you got to get a fucking concrete saw to get your cell phone back.
Wow.
All right. Cool. Go to your next link, John. Oh,
yeah. I think that was about it. This guy's this actual like guy who has to deal with these problems, which generally most, like especially service construction people that I know, like generally try to leave their customers with something safe to live in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most people I know aren't manslaughterers.
Yeah. But they're not the engineer.
Well, it
that
dries
designed
up your
house.
insurance premiums, so you don't want that.
All right.
What's our next nightmare?
So the next nightmare, of course, is bridge.
Florida.
Yeah, Florida.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
A first of its kind pedestrian bridge that swings into place. So they built this. They built this bridge, this 174-foot bridge, which is basically just a giant truss for some reason. They wheeled it in on cranes and fucking dollies and just like set it on some pylons, I guess. But it's cool because it's all made with post-tension foundations, and not just ones that go up and down the columns, but let me zoom in. Enhance. You see all these little knobs?
Yeah.
Those are all post-tension relief cables. This knob that's a little lower runs through this strut to the top of the truss, where there's 2 post-tension relief cables in it. And each one of these struts on the truss has diagonal post-tension relief cables in them.
So,
but go ahead.
This is where I'll plug well, there's your problem again. They actually did a deep dive specifically on this bridge, and something that needs to be noted is all of those trusses are aesthetically different than each other. So the closer ones I believe are more at like a real triangle angle, and then you have like an obtuse triangle that like keep's on playing out over the course of it. So
oh yeah,
I thought that was just an angle thing. Yeah, that's wild.
No. It's built into it where it looks asymmetrical essentially. And they go into it on their episode on this a lot. The other reason that they built it this way is because they didn't want to shut down traffic. So they're like, all right, how can we build this without shutting down traffic? Oh, we'll just put it on these stupid fucking lift things while we're building it. And then
Well-
like the like what ends up happening here is you have all these post tension foundation structures, and they calculated it for when it was fully built, and they didn't calculate it for when it was during construction. But go on.
Yes, and this like opposing, this big large opposing angle like to the other ones.
Yeah.
This one has two tension cables in it that are pulling in different directions. That's why there's a nub here, and then there's another nub or two nubs up top with hidden anchors in there. So they're pulling against each other in different directions. And actually, the side that we're looking on started to have some minor to major cracking in it.
I was like, minor cracking? I've seen pictures of this before.
And the way that this bridge was designed was that anytime you needed to maintenance it, you could just attach it to a crane and lift it off like a fucking pot lid.
Awesome.
Because that's realistic. That's how real life works, is you just put a crane on it.
And then guys would be on top of it, and they could fucking adjust the cables, theoretically.
Could I also go into the reason why this bridge was built in the first place? Was because there's a university near there. I forget which university it is.
Just invariably the worst thing for like a town is having a university causing weird construction projects. It's fucking evil. Like,
so there's a university there, and they needed more housing for the university, so they built housing on the other side of this giant, like 9 or it's 8 or I think it's 9 actually. It's like more lanes one way than the other. But it's like a 9-lane road between the new student housing and the university, and they're like, oh man, we're gonna have like drunk students trying to cross this 9-lane road, and they're gonna get fucking killed all the time, so we need to make a fucking footbridge over this thing. So they basically made this bridge because the expansion didn't, like, I don't know, work out the way it should have.
Well,
so yeah, it's just a bad reason to build a bridge in the first place. Like, you should have planned things out better. Maybe don't have 9-lane roads next to a university.
Exactly. I was going to say, so the real villain here is the villain that we always see in terms of city planning, which is that everything is developed around fucking cars.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
No public transport,
what was it?
just cars.
Yeah, and it's this weird like gross efficiency thing, because like the whole point of this bridge was that you could only shut down one of the 9 lanes for a crane, and then traffic can keep flowing while this crane is semi-suspended by, or this bridge is semi-suspended by a crane with dudes with tools so big that they need a separate crane to then bring in the tool that they need to serve.
Got a crane in my grader machine. You know?
I'm also going to say that like modular, I mean the obsession with modularity in like most sectors of life is already irritating enough, but modular buildings are such a fucking nightmare. Just the idea that you can build something so that you can just easily just lift a little something up, and then that way you can do whatever you want to it. Or
I consider,
these things snap together.
I consider these things the IKEA furniture of building.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And so you get things like I don't know, insert cam A into slot B. And then you get like a dowel that's supposed to go into cam A.
Yeah.
And then you just like turn your wrench a couple of times and like, oh, cool, it fits. And like, yeah, that's fine for a computer desk, but it's probably not fine when you're building something that, like, I don't know, is supposed to support like lots of people walking on it, and it's also over like a very active highway.
Yeah, I lived in an apartment complex that was essentially exactly that for I don't know, not that long, thankfully. But it was just like metal grating catwalks that snapped together, and then essentially plastic, literally plastic carpentry that was mounted into like shipping containers.
Yeah.
And holy shit, what a fucking nightmare. And everything was broken all the time. Electrical would go out and stuff. And of course it made it you could easily get to everything because you just snap two things off of one another. But then you had to be doing it all. It was very cool.
And that kind of comes down to cheap construction, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Stacking a bunch of shipping containers on top of each other is very cheap, and it turns out that doing things cheaply has a cost. Also, doing things where you don't have to shut down, like what is essentially like an economic thoroughfare, in the case of this bridge. So you're kind of like mitigating cost by not having to shut down all of the road to build this bridge properly. You're building a modular bridge that can be pieced in together, and we're going to find out that it goes badly. Go ahead.
Fucking John. Legos.
Yeah. And so this I guess vanity project thought up by not even like engineers working in the construction field, but academics.
Yeah,
like
because the university
engineers
has
made
like
this
a
bridge.
The university has an engineering department, and they're like famous for their like architectural engineers, I believe.
Yeah, which I was hooking up transformers for a research laboratory, and they wanted me to hook up the transformers to different types of systems. And I told them that this could be potentially dangerous and at the very least will decrease the lifespan of the transformers. And when transformers reach the end of their life, best case scenario, well, yeah, they blow up. Best case scenario, they gently blow up and stop working. Worst case scenario, they blow up at fucking the I think it's like they have the energy of the sun within a meter of them.
Yeah, I was going to say they're lightning potential essentially.
Yeah,
imagine a lightning strike in the middle of your building when this transformer blows up. That's what happens.
Yeah, but let's check in with the bridge. How'd
this bridge go?
The dramatic collapse in March of 2018 killed 6 people at Florida International University. Today, the NTSB revealed these stunning images of cracks engineers say were 40 times larger than what's accepted.
Pause anywhere
here. You guys almost got a spit take out of me there.
Yeah, no, I was prepared for that, thankfully. So you have cracks in this foundation. For the listener, what we saw was rolling cam footage of a vehicle rolling up to the bridge and watching it fall down on a bunch of cars.
Just like plop. Like
yeah, no, it happens. It happens in the blink of an eye, which is again why I said I get nervous anytime I drive anywhere near like fucking cranes, because I'm like I could just fucking die at any moment, and I don't have any choice in that.
And not just in a blink of an eye, but just literally the whole fucking thing just drops. Yeah. Like not oh man, the center of the bridge fell and then the rest followed. It's just the whole fucking thing just
there's crane, no cascade.
No.
The crane didn't fail though.
No, it's not the crane that failed. It's the foundation that failed. And the image we're looking at now
is a big crack.
Yeah, because the great thing about these tension cables is that you can chip them out and adjust them as necessary.
Wonderful. So the image we're looking at now is a giant. I mean, it kind of the same as the last video we watched, where there's got to be at least like 4 inches of difference between those concrete elevations, and then the crack is so big that those. I mean, this is common for people who've worked in construction, but those wooden like fold out rulers, this person has been able to stick one in all the way down to 4 inches in the middle of this crack. So
yeah,
those are
it's
like a quarter inch.
Earthquake.
Yeah. Those rulers are like a quarter inch thick. So you have a quarter inch fucking gap, that's raised up, 4 inches. And you're just able to stick the ruler in it. Like that's fucking insane. And this is before it fell, and the reports were that like, hey, we've got some fucking problems here that we should probably deal with. And then everyone was like, no, the engineers say it's okay and we can fix it in post-production, essentially.
Yeah, and the Chiron, is it a Chiron if it's not moving? I don't know.
Yeah.
But down at the bottom for this newscast, the warning signs missed, and it's like, no, they're not missed, we're looking at one. this ignored. Ignored is the word.
Ignored. Which going back to the Millennium Building, like I talked about, what you have is people trying to warn the state that, hey, something's fucked up with this construction, and the state's like, no, we really want this project to go through. So we're not going to listen to you.
How could we have known?
Yeah, how could we have known? And this is what happens whenever you financialize a project to the city, and you get the city involved in something that has like financial interests behind it. Which the university is a financial interest. Sorry, academia.
Well, and the universities sell these technologies.
I mean, even worse than the technologies is that most universities, they really get, I don't know if it's the majority of, but it's a huge portion, and certainly the majority for a lot of these institutions, of their money off of real estate. It's literally just, we want to own a bunch of buildings in the area, whether or not it seems like they own them. They own all the property that the businesses are. They own cities, essentially. And so they, of course, end up building and owning infrastructure around it. And so they want to have like more rapid movement within that and all of this, which is like on one end, maybe a quality of life improvement in some way, but on the other end, killing 6 people.
Or your electrical system is like fucking weird and backwards and thought up in some nerd's fucking fever dream, when like the rest of the fucking like country and all the rest of the people that know how to fix your electrical systems do it in a different way.
Right. That's something that you were starting to say before, and then we went off in a different direction suddenly. But what you were saying about the Transformers, bringing up the Transformers because of the fact that you're having this disagreement with people who have only known a lot of this engineering stuff in theory, right? And that's the problem, not just in engineering, but in things like politics and in all sorts of different, like, extremely important policy applying to all sorts of people, as in everyone, is that the world is run by people who have only ever done things in practice because they're managerial. Or not in practice, sorry, in theory, because they're managerial. Right. Whereas all the people that know what they're fucking doing don't enter into those slots. Because again, because of things like university systems and the way that we end up credentializing people, you do, of course, see people like move up, yada, yada, yada. But far more often in most sectors of the world, it seems like you get a couple degrees and then an internship that your dad got you, and then you get to be the boss over here. So it's not about the experience. The experience applies to some degree, but it's marginal.
It's not that you
run by
move
nerds,
up,
and it sucks.
It's not that you move up in those circumstances. It's that you start up.
You move in. Yeah.
Yeah. You move in, but you're up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we as the electricians on the project, we really didn't feel comfortable. We did our own research and we explained to them, like, you know, one of these systems runs hotter than the other. So, you know, because of, you know, manufacturing well, you know, they engineered the different types of transformers exactly to what their parameters are. And they tell you that will make it last, you know, 30 to 80 years, you know, if it's under these optimal temperatures, these optimal systems and stuff like that. But this research, it was a university research building. They had their own rules, they didn't have to follow the same code that everybody else does. So to get us to do it, they got us on the phone with an electrical engineer who worked for the university to tell us, oh, it's not like they're going to blow up when you like hook them up together, and the harmonics aren't going to be affected that much either. And it's like, I don't care about the harmonics. I care about this one runs, you know, 15% hotter than the other. And the other one is only it's not designed to run that much hotter, you know? So it might fucking melt, you know? Because the insulation that they put in it is only for the temperatures that it's rated for, but they don't care. And also, these are the same people that couldn't design a motor control bank that we offered to design for them. We're like, we can totally design these motor controls for you. They're like, no, we don't think you guys are qualified. And we're like, oh, okay, whatever. And they made a motor control console that was overheating in the lab. Some of our colleagues that were at their other lab where they designed it were like, that thing's going to light on fire. And they're like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. They brought it out there and it lit on fire when they actually plugged it into stuff. And we fixed it in 3 minutes. But they couldn't figure it out for 3 weeks, but whatever.
Another problem with how engineers operate, in my experience, is they are working with a standardized set of numbers, right? So you can have a piece of equipment that, you know, you've got a standardized weight for, a standardized like power draw for, whatever. But there's going to be material differences between like pieces of equipment, construction, you know, whether or not you got like a good batch of concrete or a good set of steel, you know, cables, is going to, whenever you make something big enough, you're going to run into like differentiations between like, hey, such and such company says that we can make a steel cable that has a tensile strength of X, right? And if they happen to get like a bad set of steel on their end and they make a steel cable that can actually only handle, you know, X -1, that throws off the whole fucking calculation. Yeah. So, you know, the engineers make these plans, and these plans don't always actually fit like the material conditions of what exists. And so when you have things like transformers, sometimes you'll get good transformers, and you know, think about like how warranties work, and how, you know, sometimes, you know, when you buy something, right, look at the reviews of it. Some people will say, hey, this part broke on me within a week, or this part has lasted me 5 years and I'm happy with it. There are material differences that happen in these pieces of equipment, in these materials, whatever. So that's the problem with why, you know, engineers say, oh no, the way we've planned this out, it'll work perfectly. Well, we're not living in a perfect world, unfortunately. We're living in a world that has like actual like problems and flaws and differentiations. Even if you have like a really renowned manufacturer of something, that piece could be different than another piece. It could be a bad batch. these things happen. And when you build something at this scale, you're running into more issues of bad batches like being that much more problematic.
Well, because if it's a bad batch and you're building a fucking 1,500 million pound building, you might have gotten all of the batch.
Yeah, no, exactly.
That bad batch didn't get sent all across the country. That bad batch was sent to your project.
Yeah.
Yeah. But let's
roll it out.
Yeah.
Oversight of the project, like the bridge itself, collapsed.
The NTSB chairman says the cracks seen days before the collapse should have prompted contractors and FIU to close the road, and that the Florida Department of Transportation should have done more.
Well,
I don't think I've ever seen one where there's more finger pointing.
Today, the university said in part FIU is committed to transparency and accountability. The bridge's designer denied responsibility, saying that a failure in the construction process was the fundamental cause of the collapse. The state called the accident absolutely heartbreaking, saying it had already tightened regulations to close public roads whenever there is a risk to life, health, or safety.
It makes you angry.
But for the family of 18-year-old Alexa Duran, who died in the collapse, today's report.
I'm sorry about your family, but we're talking about buildings right now.
Yeah. Let's
but,
move on.
So we'll find out later the construction process and how it changed that they think might have contributed to it. Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah. So, and in fact, there was an engineer that had left a voicemail warning them about what was going on 2 days before it happened, but apparently either it was ignored. Well, they claim they didn't get the voicemail. Yeah.
Actually, all of our whistleblower voicemails go into the garbage. So,
yeah, they're like
the algorithm said we don't listen to those.
Yeah, no, and like in this article, I believe their like excuse was like, oh, it was a landline, and the person who was responsible for that landline was out of town on a project or some bullshit.
It was a landline that we had, and the foundation beneath it ended up snapping and crumbling into the earth.
So here is
the world's worst dildo. I couldn't figure if I say best or not.
Well, it's somebody that's kind of done a deep dive into this bridge, and they actually give a pretty good example of like what happens at a smaller scale to these tension cables. For the listener, he's got a hydraulic press that he's put a piece of steel all thread through.
That's what I said.
Yeah, and what?
That's what I said.
Not what he said.
It's a dildo joke again. Sorry.
And he's now going to stretch that all thread and show you basically what happens when it snaps.
We got the cylinder extended. It's pulling on the rod. We're at 200 psi, so fuck all in a big ship. This thing will do nominally 10,000 psi. I made a couple special modifications myself, so it'll actually do 12,000 psi, which is about 8 kilometers down Mariana's Trench. Pretty deep, say 5 miles, lots and lots of pressure. This thing will kill you right dead, quick, fast, in a hurry if you're not careful. Really don't want to get killed by this fucking thing.
What's that?
I just said effing. I like how he has his fucking shit like propped up on a box and.
Oh yeah, that's how you know. That's how you know he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, this is real engineer shit.
Everything's sitting on the like clean wipe box.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't engineer a special table that fails 30% of the time.
Yeah, well, this works. Done. Yeah.
Fuck me. Now lean in close and careful, real listeningly. This is going to be important. We loaded this super quick, about 1 second, 200 milliseconds in the delineation. So roughly 1 second. We can see each pulse of the pump, and we are straining it. We're putting a lot of force on it, and then the force levels off, the pressure levels off. This level off area is going to be very important in the.
And so this hydraulic press is simulating the tool that they use to stretch these cables and adjust them. And he's showing a graph where it's showing the level of tension on it until it just suddenly drops. It kind of levels out and then suddenly loses all of its structural integrity.
Because it shears, maybe? Is that what happens?
One really important thing about the image that we're also saying here is that it says, you touch my scope and you die, scum.
Yeah.
Can we give this guy a shout out?
My scope and you die, scum.
You touch my scope. There you go. Well, can we give this guy a shout out? Who is this guy on YouTube?
AVE.
AVE. This guy, I love him. I want to be his friend.
What you got here? Commenting under the Benzo Rehab Dungeon official account.
Well, now we're never going to be this guy's friend.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Commenting on live.
There you go. Anyway, so there's a graph that says it snaps because eventually it snaps.
Yeah.
Basically,
the pressure becomes too much.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's actually kind of silly, like, because it's obvious, but that it.
I mean, that's physics for you.
Yeah, things break eventually. I'm gonna skip ahead a little
bit. They do.
And he's got a slow-mo here.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah,
that's not good for oscilloscopes.
I want to watch the slow-mo.
Here's the slow speed one I wanted to show you. Super salient point here. When the rod fails, it comes fucking whipping out of there.
Yeah.
Now we go back to the screenshot of the failure.
Is he Canadian? Is that what's
I think
going
so.
on?
Yeah. No, I think it might be Canadian.
This guy rules. Yeah.
Oh,
he might just be. I mean, he did say meters, which makes me think he's Canadian. But then I think he could just be a New Englander.
He could, and he seems like some kind of black-pilled engineer, or
like I said, I love him.
That just read engineering books.
He seems cool.
Yeah.
But so actually, we paused in the perfect place. So you see this blue thing right here?
He's circling a blue thing on the screen.
Yeah. That's the hydraulic ram that was pulling on that cable.
Man, they got the hydraulic ram pulling on the cable again.
That was on the bridge. So you see how far away from the node that the cable is supposed to be in?
Yeah.
Oh.
They pulled that out, huh?
Yeah. Well, it exploded out, which that's also why there's no bodies, because there was a crew of 4 people on that machine, and they're not on the top of the bridge. And this is like minutes after the crash happened when this picture was taken.
Yeah.
First responders are just running onto the scene as this image was taken, and the crew is gone. They've been launched into the air.
Right.
I think there was 6 vehicular deaths, but there was a couple more crew deaths as well.
Yes.
Because anyone who was
died.
standing on that bridge basically fucking died because they fell 20 feet onto a thing that was buckling and fucking destroying itself essentially. Yeah.
Well, so the
sandwich.
Those residential cables, the rods that are similar to these big thick ones, when they go shooting out, they reach the velocity. Getting hit with them is like getting hit with the velocity of 7 smart cars.
Nice.
Yeah.
Which is how many real cars?
I like 3.
I have an uncle who worked in the logging industry for a long time, and they used to do logging operations downhill, and what they would have to do is they would have to hitch these logs onto these big steel cables and stuff to pull them up the side of the hill, and one of those steel cables broke, and he was actually pretty far away from it, but like the tail, or not the tail end of it, but like some portion of it like kind of whipped him across the stomach, and he nearly died and was in the hospital for almost a year, I think, according to my recollection of things. When something busts under tension and like whips you, like it can tear you in half unless you're like extremely lucky.
Well, I mean, it's all of the like kinetic energy that's been sitting in that thing for forever is suddenly released into your stupid fucking body.
Right.
It's incredible. Like in a very concentrated space. Anyway, what else we got?
I'm actually surprised this thing isn't covered in blood.
Yeah.
The rod is dangling in midair with the cylinder still attached. So you say to me, well, maybe the concrete broke and it came flying out of there. But if the concrete truss section breaks, it mangles up that steel something fierce. It gets stuck in there. It doesn't come flying out. Well, so you say to me, well, maybe somebody pulled it out after the fact. Well, if it's mangled up, it ain't coming out of that hole. Now, I had a goodly look at all the footage, and there is none of the blisters with the pretensioner, the PT rods, none of the rods have come out. So there we go. The rod breaking is the straw what broke the camel's back. Now, the thing is, why did the rod break? You always got to ask yourself why. So now we know why the final collapse took.
Math shit.
And can we look at the top right there just real quick?
Yeah.
That's how the fucking trusses were built.
It's a bizarre construction.
Just to be asymmetrical, they built them that way. It's fucking asinine. Doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. It was all aesthetic. And if they maybe like built a regular truss bridge, this wouldn't have happened. But they wanted all the angles to be like weird and obtuse.
That's actually why they did it. They did it for.
Yeah, no. It was all strictly like an aesthetic.
Yeah. Which is so funny because it makes it uglier too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very ugly bridge.
New architecturalism.
And
you can see in that drawing too. All the angles are fucking different. It's insane.
So I'm sure that has no carryover into the way that like force is
also
is kind of equalized.
If you look at this sketch, and if you remember the bridge, this extra column here, they were pulling on this cable right here.
Yep.
This extra column here that is in the picture. There's a one column right next to the other. It turns out the engineer put that column on fucking garbage ground.
Nice.
Basically ground that cannot be built on. So real quick in the middle of the project, that engineer blaming, construction procedures on the damage. Well, it was an engineer that did the math that day to keep the construction rolling, and they moved that pillar over here between these two lines that he's marked on the paper.
Yeah, and it was a change because, like I said, they didn't do the engineering for like the various stages of construction. They did the engineering for the final construction, and the stage of construction that they were at, they were like, oh, okay, we need to move this pillar over here so that like it puts the proper tension on these things. They were kind of just like flying with it essentially, and that turned out to not work.
Yeah, and also there was a cement barrier already existing, a lane delineator, so it would have made the space between these two columns an impassable lane that nobody could fit through.
Right. So they failed in not closing down the streets, and then they closed down the streets for a long time.
Yeah. But here's an example of this is a pre-tension relief cable busting, which basically they make a frame of cement, set the rods, tension them and then pour wet cement on it. But we'll watch one pop in the middle of new construction. Yo, you hear it rattling.
Oh God, hammer noises.
Here it goes. Stay back.
Jesus.
Yeah, love to be around that.
Some Tremors shit.
Yeah, and honestly, like they were standing too close because it could have popped the other way too.
Yeah,
right.
No, they're incredibly lucky.
Yeah, because as they're like, there it goes, like it could have popped in the other direction.
Yeah. Doing it for the gram. All right,
Yep.
so we don't actually need to look at this, so it's fine that we've been paywalled by the New York Times.
Thank you. The paper of record that we're not able to read.
So we looked at this article before, and it's the downside to life in a super tall tower: leaks, creaks, and breaks.
Leaks, creaks, and breaks. You always pronounce it wrong.
I think they wanted it to be that leaks, creaks, and breaks.
Creaks and breaks. Yeah.
It works on paper because it's got all the same vowels and consonants mostly, but
well, yeah, it's written in Middle English is what it is.
There we go.
It's the downside to life in the super tall tower: leaks, creaks, breaks.
Yeah. So this is about 432 Park Avenue, which is kind of a
432
nightmare. It's a super tall residential space that was built in New York City. Hasn't seen the action that it probably wants to. Lots of problems with it. Go ahead and go to the next link because there's been more since we last talked about it. So 432 Park Avenue. Go ahead and go back up there, John. You'll notice these 2-story rings that are just like fully lit up every so often in the building, and that's because those are mechanical areas to support the building. So a lot of this building is actually just mechanical area. But go ahead and go down to the body now of the article. So embattled billionaire skyscraper developer sued for shoddy construction. The condo board at 432 Park Avenue in New York alleges more than 1,500 design and development flaws.
So pretty good.
Yeah, that's a lot. You might recognize 1,500 design flaws as a lot of design flaws. So there's an active legal case. It started in September 27th. Go ahead and go to the next link because this is what I love about buildings like this. Which is that the people that stand to make money off of the building are saying it's actually okay. 432 Park Avenue is doing just fine, thanks. Agents say condo board's $250 million lawsuit hasn't curtailed interest from ultra rich buyers. You can read this article for yourselves. Basically, it goes into, hey, we've still sold some of these apartments, and then it, like
success.
Yeah, it conveniently ignores that like a lot of these apartments aren't being sold. It says something like, hey, this lawsuit that's happening, only good can come of it because, you know, if the council board wins, then, you know, the building will be improved. We'll get money for improvements, so that's good. If it doesn't win, then that means it's fine and you don't need to worry about it.
I just have one thing to say about this article and the image we're currently looking at.
which is a bunch of rich bros and like a lady rich bro, like just being like, we make money, so we're fine.
Exactly.
I thought it was her mom.
You can maybe you can always trust someone wearing a fucking shiny suit.
Yeah. Shiny
like
suit's
a leather fucking sports coat.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So in this article they go into like so the skyscraper at 432 Park Avenue opened in 2015 to a mixture of fanfare and criticism over its slender design and its significance as a looming status symbol for the ultra wealthy. Yeah.
So slender.
So you know, the funny thing about this is that like this is obviously a very contested building. I'm gonna go ahead and go on the side of this building is garbage and they probably shouldn't have built it like this. And all these agents, people who stand to make money off of selling the condominiums here, are probably lying about the state of the condition of the building. And the more expose journalism that's been done on it is probably more accurate. But wonderfully, and we'll go to the next link. The same people who designed and built 432 Park Avenue are making a new building, which is Maclow's Tower 5th. Scroll down a little bit because it may not be apparent out of the skyline that's shown what this building is. Keep going down.
What the fuck?
Yeah, that's a good image to start on, where you have this big missing piece of infrastructure in the middle because they're like, we can just cantilever everything out from this kind of cool internal column structure.
Yeah. For the listener, just imagine a tree, but the middle of it just has yeah. The middle of it just has like all of the bark and a few layers removed. So it's got this weird little skinny bit in the middle.
It's like they're promising that it's gonna fall down.
Yeah, it is a tree being chopped. That is literally what this is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep going down. We don't need to focus on these. They're talking about the framing of the cathedral outside of it. Oh, it's gonna be so pretty. It's gonna be so great. Yay. Keep going down. I'll tell you when to stop. Right here is where you need to stop. So
more cantilevers further up.
They decided at very near the top of this. I think it's like a 1,600 foot building or more, something like that. It means to surpass One World Trade Center, which is 1,775 feet tall. So it's a little bit taller than that. And at the very near tippy top, they decided that they want to like cantilever out several directions, so it looks like a broken building or something. I don't know.
Jenga. It looks like Jenga.
Yeah, it looks like Jenga in progress. Which we all know Jenga ends well.
Yeah.
It ends with a well-built tower.
Yeah. So keep going down.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And here's
it's off center.
Here's a good place to stop because we see the top of the building, which has this weird cantilever, and then we see comparisons with other buildings, which are all like, straight and narrow,
bottom heavy, if anything. Yeah,
but they all have like, you know, like a good proper foundation for the most part. And then we get to Tower 5th, which looks like it's trying to be a skeleton of a building.
Well, it's made for an action movie, just so it can get snapped in half. Like it's designed for that. Amazing.
So the majority of the tower reaches this like real weird skinny point where it like cantilevers out on both sides, goes up, cantilevers out on one side really hard, and then goes up. Continue. It's just more renderings and like, why do you need to do this? You don't need to do this.
Well, it's all sales. Like, it's just sales. Everything is sales.
It's just interesting, so they think they can make sales off of it.
Man, I should have kept the Society of the Spectacle open from 2 episodes ago, so I could start making quotes. Yeah, this is cool, dude. I'm really glad.
This is made by the same people that made 432 Park Avenue, which we know is a very successful and good building. So we have one last link that I wanted to share because, ooh,
excuse me,
an easy boy. One last video that I wanted to share because we've talked about this in the past and why Congress people shouldn't buy or sell stocks. But this is Nancy Pelosi getting very angry over her being called out about stocks. There's some lead up into this, which I think is important because these gentlemen explain the problem here pretty well, I think. Except for the weird guy with the squint. He's a free market capitalist kind of guy, so he can fuck himself. But go ahead and play it, John.
Yeah.
Business Insider completed a 5-month investigation into every member of Congress on their financial conflicts and transparency and found dozens of lawmakers in violation of the Stock Act. And it's not just lawmakers. Insider found that at least 182 high-level staffers on Capitol Hill have missed deadlines to disclose their personal stock trades. The violations are bipartisan, though, with late reporting split down the middle between Democrats and Republicans.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was asked for her reaction to Insider's stock trading investigation, where she defended members' right to trade.
This is the guy we don't
Let's watch.
Surprise!
Just completed a 5-month investigation finding that 49 members of Congress and 182 senior congressional staffers have violated the Stock Act, the insider trading law. I'm wondering if you have any reaction to that, and secondly, should members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
No, I don't know to the second one. We have a responsibility to report in the stock. On the stock, but I'm not familiar with that 5-month review, but if people aren't reporting, they should be.
Deep.
What was that?
Oh no, deep. It was a great answer. It was
just keep.
Oh yeah, people do bad things. No, do bad things.
First off, so the question is like, should lawmakers be able to hold stocks, and should their spouses be able to hold stocks?
No.
Immediately.
No. I mean, yes.
Pelosi, who happens to have a husband who has like a bunch of real estate stock, immediately she's like, no to the second one. Please.
Yeah.
No,
of course they should. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead and keep playing this out because there's a good explanation of what's going on here. I think that happens after this weird twerpy nerd like says his piece about the free market.
Because this is a free market and people. We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
None of these
Insider
things are real.
Deputy Washington Bureau Chief Dave Leventhal is here to discuss Insider's deep dive, Conflicted Congress Project. Great to have you with us.
Hey, good to be here.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the free market too. A big fan. What the government does is not like necessarily within the scope of the free market, like using knowledge that they would have from, being the ones who set the rules and regulations for corporations and then using that to benefit themselves would be like the opposite of the free market.
It's called insider trading.
What did you make of the speaker's comments?
Well, the speaker, of course, is entitled to her opinion on this, but it's important to note just the bottom line facts of the matter. Lawmakers are not like you and I sitting at home with our TD Ameritrade app, getting stock in ExxonMobil or AT&T or Tesla. They are privy to incredible levels of high-level and privileged information. Their aides are also very much entitled to that information. They know a lot more about different companies, different industries, and of course are empowered by the body politic to make decisions on behalf of the public using that information that they're coming into contact with and have knowledge of. So as a result, that information could ostensibly be used for personal gain. It could be used for making stock trades, buying and selling equities or other financial transactions. And that really just harkens back to the point of the Stock Act, the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act of 2012, which is at the heart of this matter. Congress passed it for itself as a defense against this type of activity, a defense against conflicts of interest, and a bulwark against corruption, ultimately. But our reporting has panned out and showed and demonstrated that members of Congress sometimes are very bad at following the rules of the road.
And beyond the information that they get as members of Congress, there's a less discussed aspect of this, which is the kind of the political economy and the political incentives that owning these individual stocks sets up. I want to get your take on that. In other words, if you know that you own, to take your example, Exxon stock, you know that your congressional action when it comes to climate change policy could impact your stock price. And so it's not that you're trading on knowledge, it's that your ownership of that stock disincentivizes you to do what's in the public interest as a result, or punishes you if you do the right thing. And if you punish people system-wide, they're just not going to do it.
Yeah, and one aspect of this, too, is that right now, as a lawmaker, you don't face any real significant penalty for violating the Stock Act if you ultimately do, particularly the disclosure provisions of the Stock Act. So if you, for example, are driving down the highway and you're going 55 miles an hour, but it's a 30-mile-an-hour zone, and you know you're only going to get a $5 ticket, well, you might be driving 55 a lot, okay? For lawmakers, the same principle applies in part in the sense that they only face a $200 fine as an initial fine if, for example, they are months or even years late in disclosing stock purchases or stock sales in companies that, in terms of the total value of those trades, could number into the 6, 7, or even 8 figures. And we've found evidence of all of that with several lawmakers.
So I think that the punishment, cool and good. I think that so the punishment needs to be, I think, a meter of skin. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a meter of skin for every non-disclosure.
Man, that's a lot of skin.
That's fair. Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that though. Did you have something to say, Dorian? Sorry.
No, I was following off of the meter joke.
Skin.
But no, I'm glad that this guy pointed out that it's not just about the trades themselves; it's about the ownership at all.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Yeah.
That's why I wanted to play this to the point we played it. This is I think the end of the podcast, unless somebody else has something they want to say.
No, dudes.
Pitches you want to give?
Care about anything?
We have
I do.
I
do.
Open workshop tomorrow.
Yep, open workshop tomorrow morning. We're hitting the hefty topic of Nick Land, and through him Nietzsche and Bataille, everyone's favorite boys. But and then in 3 weeks, so right after the holidays, that first week we're going to have another open one where we're talking about my internet namesake. So on the 8th of January, we're coming back to talk about Deleuze and Guattari, their work on Kafka. So both these are going to be open to the public. Anyone can come in. I mean, all of these ultimately are. Yeah, so 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. PST every Saturday. If you go to patreon.com/Truncata, TRUNCATA, all the information is there. There's a public post on there right now with all the info for tomorrow's session. You don't have to pay or log in or anything to get access to that. Otherwise, yeah, shoot me a message on Instagram or Deebs here, and we'll get you set up. But it's exciting. We've had some submissions already for presenting for this one, but there, I think, is like one more open slot if anyone wants in. So please just let us know. Submit some work if you want it looked at. Otherwise, come to lurk, come to talk about our problematic, spooky little guy.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
As always, the Benzo Rehab Dungeon is a free broadcast. If you would like to support this, You can go to patreon.com/BenzoRehabDungeon. But if you don't, we're still going to provide you with the same level of content we always have. So with that said, we love you. Please take your medicine.
Please take mine too.
And make sure to share with your friends.